Okay, who could actually own everything? My answer is no, you could not own anything. And then the concept expanding from this would be what we call patent or patent concept. You could only own it, what? Financially. If someone infringes your patent, you can charge the company or him or her some money, right, to compensate your loss. But before that, in the first half of today's lecture, we focus on the concept, how to allocate resources. And then I introduce to you the concept come from Gary Hardin, the tragedy of the commons, 公社嘅悲劇. The tragedy is that number one, resources is limited. Number two, there's a carrying capacity problem, 承載力嘅問題, because the resource is limited, right? So the carrying capacity of a farm or of a common is limited. And then number three, there's no teleological fix. At least at that time frame, there was no teleological fix. Of course, now you may come back to me, hey KM, now we have transgenic organism. We have transgenic grass, the grass could grow really fast so that we can raise more sheep, right? Or even I have developed some kind of new type of GM, animals that can produce, one sheep could produce more meat or more natural product or resources. Now that would be related to patent that we are going to talk about. But today we have an issue to study. It's about management, because we have to count in the environmental costs because of 1 and 2 and 3, not enough resources, carrying capacity, and there's no technological fix. And then we have to count in the what we call the environmental costs. And then for these environmental costs, then of course we have to bring in the concept of who owns the resources. I have not finished the story. So we keep asking the same question again, who owns the resources? I would say, okay, the nation. And then like for example, in Pearl River region, at least Hong Kong, Macau, Zhuhai and Guangzhou, they own the Pearl River area. So we have to develop some sort of collaboration, like air pollution, like economy, like biotech development. We all have this kind of collaboration. And then another concept is that who really owns the land or the water. In the old days when we did hiking in a country park, and then we walk by, we find them what they call, that was before 1997, they call it crown land, 皇家土地. I'm not kidding, we did hike and then some foreigner joked at, oh, you guys are still under the rule of the Queen. So the government did not own it. And then you say, perhaps this land is owned by the villagers, the 村民. But then you will say, okay, would the 村民 really own it? Sorry, again, this is an environmental issue. If private land has conservation value, 私人土地有保育價值. Do they really own it? I own it. I want to build a house. Under certain law or rule or regulation, the answer is no again, because you don't really own it. You may own it, but you could not develop it. You only own the land. But there's no power for you to develop it into something else. So there are many different concepts required to develop this management issue. So in the next few slides, we'll talk about that. And then we usually now use this what we call holistic ethic. Okay, holistic ethic means that, like, for example, we allow certain kind of hunting if the species is not endangered. Okay, we had that discussion before. And then for land ethics, we have to preserve those what we call the integrity, stability, and the beauty of the biotic community, because we don't really own the planet. We should leave this behind us. So we should not disturb it. So an ethic, however, would include not just the land, but also human ethic. And then for that, we would like to extend the concept of ownership, also extend to animal rights issue. So in other words, we may see these kind of things from not just ourselves, but also non-animals, non-human. The old school of the thinking of allocation of resources, as we discussed previously, the old school would be the communism, between communism and capitalism. But then in the last 20 years or so, we knew that this sort of system, party-based and may not really solve the whole world. What we are suggesting to do or thinking of doing is that we now have a new world order. I don't know what's the real new world order. I'm not the world leader. I only know that now more and more people are concerned with Mother Nature. So the new world order is that they are proposing this Gaia hypothesis. Gaia, what's that mean? Is the goddess of it's from the Greek word, the goddess that owns the earth, or Gaia is the mother of all humans, not just human, but all different biological organisms. Okay. However, we have the human beings dominating the earth. So our job or primary job under this Gaia hypothesis, so these are old school, this is new order, so we have to save our world. So the next few lectures will focus on how we're going to do that. But here I will bring into some new concept that the world is limited. Finite world must spend human population to natural growth. But the question is how we're going to do this, right? From Gerhardin's tragedy of the common, we say, oh, there's the carrying capacity issue. We do not have enough room to accommodate, 9 or 10 billion people. But how are we going to do it? Even socialism, I just mentioned, we need a tight control of the population or even the population structure. We have a certain age group fixed in different ratio so that the young making money could support the elderly. Now we have a huge imbalance of this. We folks, old people, are relying on you guys. In Hong Kong now 30% or even more than 30% in coming 2-3 decades are the elderly like us. Yeah, of course you say, oh, technological fix, we have all the technology, healthcare. But still, we have to estimate the amount of resources that we need to put in. There are different environmental governance, or what we call management concept. On the left-hand side is called transition, and the right-hand side is called adaptive. These are kind of like textbook knowledge. Most textbooks would tell you, okay, these are the way that we can control or allocate resources or distribute those resources. On the left-hand side, transition is more evolutionary. You have a drastic change. You stay for a while like this, and then suddenly change to a new model. On the right-hand side is adaptive. It's like learning. It's a machine learning. Slowly, and don't do this too fast. You slowly or gradually change it. That is the management style. And this one would be more socio-ecological, and And then because it's so slow, so all members or all stakeholders must have their own commitment. And then on the left-hand side, transition, because you want something to change drastically. So there are what we call policy incentives or economic incentives to put in, because you want to change immediately, right? Things don't just change immediately. Usually it's business as usual if you don't put in some incentive, right? Then you have to put in some incentive, or you usually call this green initiatives. Okay, so like many biotech companies are not doing well. Oh, we need to put some money to facilitate the biotech company to do well, to help save the world's resources or energy and so on. And then both require a very good media, free expression and report of this different information, so that the two mechanisms or two systems can know about if there's any technological fix and so on. Alternatively, there are also two ways of doing, the left-hand side is known as shallow ecology, the right-hand side is known as deep ecology. Don't think this concept of ecology, ecology could means a lot of things, like 經濟都有生態圈. You don't think that, oh, it must be too biological, no? But we may borrow this from deep ecology, harmony with nature, no matter what you do. Don't disturb Mother Nature. That is what we call deep ecology. Shallow is, dominance over nature. I have a dominant right to see, it's like a management. I may give a lot of resources. Okay, the natural resources is for human use because a dominant be controlling this piece of land. So I'm saying, okay, this will grow cotton, and this field of land will grow what wheat. Kind of like a planned economy. Okay, but still, they are not chopping all the trees for nothing. They chop the trees because we need to develop agricultural fields to feed the world, right? And then high technology as solution to make progress. So in this case, consumerism, 消費主義, is acceptable, and usually happen in a national and centralized community. Okay, still remember the place we visit, Kazakhstan. We visit Astana. Astana was it's a new capital of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan was a small nation within USSR. Now they got independent out of Russia since 1989. But before that, they were forced to grow only wheat and cotton to feed the whole USSR. Okay, so this is kind of what we call shallow ecology. But for deep ecology, we recognize harmony with nature. Resources or earth supplies are limited. So only simple materials needed. Don't go over to high technology. We emphasize economic use and then the 3R. Recycling and cyclic economy. Okay? So I think the world right now with the Gaia concept, we are moving towards from shallow ecology to deep ecology. This is the world right now is doing like this. So related concepts for policy making are, on the left hand side, either anthropogenic focus, human at center. And then we are moving away from human center, not really moving away, but moving on with a non-anthropocentric, 唔好咁以人做中心. And then ultimately, we use what we call the holistic ethic. So each action is considered holistically, 比較完整啲去考慮. And there are different examples here. I don't go into the details. And then say that anthropocentric, for example, climate change is quite anthropocentric. So we have to do something. All rely on human beings' activities. And then on the right-hand side, we also have to consider all these things, including if this is good for everyone. Or what do you mean by good for everyone? Then you have to consider justice and equality and fairness, and also freedom. And in some cases, or in many cases, in many countries, they have their own religious tradition. Then you have to follow, and then at the end we have this ecofeminism or social ecology, thinking about the social hierarchy, and then we have to also bring in of women's rights and the minorities' rights. So these are the policy making guidelines that people usually would have around the world. So I think I've finished the part for allocation of resources and management style. We may start, I don't know where to put it, but I suppose who own Planet Earth, that's why I put it here. Who could own almost anything or nothing? The answer is no, unless you have a patent. Then you really own it, right? Am I right? I'm wrong. You cannot own anything. Say like, can you own a gene? You cannot own a gene. We all have our own gene. You cannot say, how dare you say that you own my gene? We all have different genes. I mean, the same genes, right? So there are different what we call intellectual property. There are at least 4 types, but we will only focus on patent or patent. We also have the concept of copyright. When we discuss conduct or misconduct, we have introduced a certain concept about copyright, but we will come back to that. The third kind is what we call trademark. Trademark is almost like the design or the logo of the copyright issue. And I don't know, the other day I saw another commercial, and sometimes they call it look. This is the name of a jewelry company, right? And then in many of these Chinese companies, they all change one name from Hong Kong brand name or from international brand name. So it's always a debate. I'm not using your name, I'm just using half of the name. Okay, they have Lok Fuk Ju Bo or Dai Fuk Ju Bo. That sort of thing, you know, what I'm trying to explain, because those are unauthorized copying or copyright infringement. This is the term we call it infringement. And then number 4 is business secret. Business secrets is also one of what we call intellectual property. Say like if you go into a company, any biotech company, you have to sign an agreement. They even have what they call a 冷靜期, a grace period. After you have resigned the job from my company, you cannot join several other companies within a period of time. Usually it's half a year or 1 year. Otherwise, you would have come to my company and then learn all the different tricks or technology, right? And then move to other companies, right? That is what they call the business secret. But of course, many of those control or regulation nowadays, we have those, you know, professional bodies or organization. You have to obtain a certain standard or level or certificate to do certain things rather than controlling the business secret. And with that, we focus mainly on the patent or patent. You may be surprised that actually some countries, they could own rare earth elements. Okay, I was really surprised and heard one of the complaints is that they realized that in 2019 or 2018, China had already, or Chinese company had already filed in that many different patents over the use of these different materials. Of course, the soil or the mine by themselves, you cannot really patent it. But the technology, how to make use of this soil, could be an issue. So can you patent a gene? They'll say, I will say no, sorry, you cannot patent a gene. If this gene is actually part of our body, so it's not just in your body, but in somebody else's body. Then the argument came from the fact that can I clone a gene? And then own the cloned gene. Say like IGM, we design different bow breaks. We always had this debate with the IGM Foundation. I make this new DNA breaks. So who owns this DNA? Now I'm not talking about a gene, I'm talking about several genes that we mix them together. So what do you think? You think you can own it? In one case that this was a very famous case, Diamond versus ChatGPT. In the beginning, they would say, okay, you cannot really own a plant. How can you say that you own rice? Right? There are many different kinds of rice. But you can own it if you really develop it and have found a method to propagate it. Like for example, I always watch that evening Japanese movie, 小農夫大作文. Oh, in Hokkaido, they grow many different kind of strange 西瓜. Okay, very special. We call it breed, you know, after breeding. Could we really own it? I don't know. I think we could or we should. And that become an ethical issue. Right now, all these Fuji apple are not from sushi. You see the point I'm trying to get into? They could be from Fujian or from Korea if you buy those peach. Right after the last Mid-Autumn Festival. Most people nowadays go buy, I have seen two companies, they used to sell those Japanese fruits, now they bankrupt. I mean not bankrupt but closed down. And now you can see HKTV Mall, a different company, are selling more or less the same thing. But not from Japan, of course, from other places. You see, sometimes this is tricky. In that case, the patent protection is available for a microorganism that is artificially constructed rather than naturally occurring. Now that could be very tricky. Same thing is true then we next ask the question, could we patent the bacteria? So you clone the gene and then you make all these different bio bricks or DNA parts and make them into one plasmid, and that plasmid you put into bacteria. Could you patent it? Yeah, that was the old concept, 1930 or 1970. Asexual reproduction, they just keep producing them. Okay? And then there was the 1970 Plant Variety Protection Act, because I want to protect biodiversity. So you're not allowed to patent it. Now this is the edge of course, a continuing controversy, and the question is, I'm posing to you is, can we own anything? A clone? Okay, the gene. Any gene? The answer is no, right? If you clone a gene and I mutate it, can you own it? Or I clone a gene and then I put something else into a gene. Can we own the new gene or the modified gene? So you see what I'm trying to get into? How are you going to draw a line to cut what is natural and what is man-made? And then I'm arguing you, all your different parts are from different genes. They are not patentable. So if you put them together, the clone or the DNA are also not patentable, right? So what could be cloned or patent? Now coming back to this same example is that could you patent growth hormone? So our answer is no. because growth hormone exists in our body. Okay, and you may argue, okay, recombinant growth hormone is made unnaturally. There are patents, but actually, the patents are what? We may argue, okay, natural growth hormone, they are all glycosylated because they all have the sugar. So the hormone that I'm patenting is not glycosylated. I'm proving that this is functional, so I could patent it, but the answer is no. The patent that was given to a company called Genentech, actually, the patent that they had was to express it in bacteria with a novel method. That novel method is what? The protein could be refolded into its natural form. So the company owned the patent. So other company may produce growth hormone, but they cannot use this method to produce. So they actually put a signal peptide so that the growth hormone go into the bacteria, will go through this folding process and then fold into its natural active form. Okay, so the patent is owned by the company known as Genentech, but then other new drugs, now they own it, but it's not growth hormone, it is called GHS. What is GHS? Look at this, all these different chemicals. They are known as growth hormone secretagogues. They are supposed to stimulate growth hormone to release. So these are the new patents came out. And then, okay, you say that you cannot own this natural, I'm not owning this natural thing. These are all chemical mimics. These are all chemical mimics of the GHS. So right now, all drug companies, they are patenting what? The chemical mimics. If they can prove that the chemicals would work similarly well or even better, if not worse, but at least it works. Because you can always control the dose, right? So they only patent all these different chemicals. These are the mimics of these different GHS to stimulate growth hormone, so that you don't even need to inject it, because growth hormone is a protein. You need to inject it into the bloodstream, and always not a very good thing to do. And these guys, they are the next generations of growth hormone release hormone mimics. These are oral drugs. Okay, so they can go to the growth hormone releasing hormone receptor. This is the GHS that would hit on this receptor and then stimulate the production of growth hormone. Now they actually patent all these different chemicals, so different companies will have different patents. So what is in the patent or patent? There are 4 criteria. Number 1 is the technique. That is a new technique and non-obvious. Non-obvious is obvious. I know growth hormone will stimulate growth. This is so obvious. And also this is obvious because it's been known for a while. It's been known for a long time, so you cannot patent it. Number 2, obviously, you can think of this as new and non-obvious. Usually we are talking about an application. Okay, an application is to use this GHS to stimulate growth. To stimulate growth. And then how can you virtually own anything? I'm not owning anything. I'm owning the patent. So you may complain that somebody else have such infringement of the patent. You know what? In all universities around the world, we have our own office, ORCS, ORKTS, Office of Research Knowledge Transfer. Okay, in universities around the world, they all have their own lawyers to sue you, because all those patents are owned by the scientists or the university. And then they would look for different products and find if there's any infringement. Okay, and now, but you can imagine, okay, what region are we going to cover? Like I asked you, who own the river? Okay, this river, Pearl River, probably owned by different cities, or Macau, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou. At least they have different ownership. Same thing is true. We have a regional issue here. We usually apply for a patent with 1 year of what we call provisional patent. And then 1 year after, you have to, if you find this is so important, then you're willing to add on some money. At least you may buy patents in Hong Kong, in China, in Europe, and in USA, 4 different regions. In other words, you have a patent in the US, not necessarily mean that the patent would work in China. You have to do the same. Then, of course, you have to ask yourself, why would you like to buy such a patent in that country? Because I have the commercial value, right, in that particular country. All right. So these are the 4 basic concepts of having the patent. So when we talked about a long time ago, who could own anything under the sun? Could you patent anything under the sun? The answer is no. You cannot patent a species. You cannot even patent a bug. You cannot even patent any gene you make. So what is patentable is that there must be new invention in design or in technique, a device. Now you have to provide data and scientific proof. Okay, now that is very important. One of the IGM team members, now Jessica, is working with my friend Albert Chan on the patent of that tracer. She has to provide data, how they design it, what kind of program was involved in designing these devices. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that when you do an experiment, you think this is a stone-breaking experiment. Put down all the details with specified dates. Otherwise, somebody would jump on you and say, hey, 10 days ago I did the same experiment, not in Science Center, but in Area 39 in the biomedical school. And then you come there, oh, we had a chat the other day in the MedCan, and then I told him this method would be an interesting method. And then this guy just got down to the biomedical lab and finished the experiment at the same time, right? So you have to be very careful. If you really come up with that kind of controversy, then you have to put up your lab log. When I was a student, my supervisor always walked by and take a look at our lab log. I don't know these days. These things usually nowadays are done electronically. They are electronic logbook, right? So putting down correct information is important. And then finally, who pays for it? The only thing that I don't like the university policy is that they say, okay, if you think that is so important, the university has no funding to pay for everything. So you have to pay for it first. A lot of researchers are complaining about this, so the government started to have some new funding for patent. So provided that you have done the provisional patent, and then if you want to file in more patent in different countries, then they would help you to do so. Of course, they would not give out the money for free. They have to ask you, what are these money for, and then why would you like to patent this? Do you think your design or new product is profitable? But like it or not, this is the numbers over the years. As I said, this is a plant patent. The old days they had this plant patent, but then most of the patent or patent now, these are what they call the utility patents, to prove that these things actually work. And then not many people have those plant patent because it's basically useless. You cannot patent Fuji apple in Japan because I can see now Fuji, even papaya.